Hey guys, I'm cmasupra and welcome to a rather short Company of Heroes 1 multiplayer video. This video is rather short because I want to show you guys the strategy I use as the Panzer Elite to defeat the British, and the strategy works especially well on Longra, which is the map that this game that I'm showing you in this video is on. So I am playing as the Panzer Elite, my opponent is the British, and we are playing on Longra. So at the beginning, what you want to do for the strategy is build one single Panzer Grenadier squad and have it build tier 1. At the same time, you want to have your kitty going around capturing as many fuel points as it can, while also some munition points. But you want to focus on fuel mostly because you want to get the Panzer IV IST, Infantry Support Tank, as fast as you possibly can. I'll explain more on that why later. So you might be thinking, why am I building Tier 1? Are you crazy? Tier 1 sucks. The reality is no, it does not suck against the Brits. It sucks against the Americans, but not against the Brits. What you want from Tier 1 is a scout car. You actually want two scout cars, because the scout car, one-on-one, one scout car versus one British infantry section, the scout car will win. Because I don't know why, but it does. As long as the British infantry are not in green cover. If they're in yellow cover, that's fine. If they're in red cover, that's great. If they're in no cover, that's great. As long as they're not in green cover, the scout car will usually win. So a scout car is a great cost-effective way to take down the early British infantry sections, because they cost like less than half the manpower that they cost. Now you may notice that I'm actually not building a scout car yet, and that is because I built a second Panzer Grenadier squad. So what you want to do is have your first one build tier 1, and then as it's building tier 1, when you get the manpower for a second Panzer Grenadier squad, you want to build another one and have 2 on the field. Then what you want to do next is build 2 scout cars. So I'm building my first scout car now, and they do take quite a while to build. So you might want to have your Panzer Grenadiers somewhere safe, away from fighting the enemy, while you are building your first scout car and your second scout car. While all this is happening, I am having my kitty capture a bunch of fuel points. I am focusing on the fuel points because, like I said, I want the Panzer IV IST as fast as I can possibly get it. But at the same time, I'm trying to stay safe. I'm trying to stay out of enemy territory. I don't want to get into a fight because I am lower on the number of units and the damage output of my units than my opponent is. At this point in the game. You can see I was almost going to go for that VP, but I decided against it. I'm going to go for some munitions and then the VP. First scout car is on the field. Excellent. So the scout car has multiple uses in this. Because the British are slow, you can use the scout car to capture points around the map if you're not able to win fights against the British. But I prefer to use it in fights against the British, so I'm sending my 2 Panzer Grenadier squads and my 1 scout car to go fight some British infantry. Here we can see our first infantry section, and I will easily win this fight because he is capping the point. I send my scout car to the other infantry section, and I'm trying to prevent him capping the point, but I am not able to, so screw it. Just do damage to the squad. This squad retreats away from my Panzer Grenadiers. I back up because I won't win now against the new squad that just showed up. And now you see that my opponent went to green cover here. I have to run away from green cover. Green cover is the bane of this strategy, because scout cars will lose one-on-one versus British infantry if the infantry are in green cover. A bit of lag happened here, that's what's going on. There we go, it ended. And that was the only bit of lag, if I remember correctly, in this game. So, it wasn't bad. Looking at the map, I do have most of the map. I have all the fuel points I captured. I'm going to capture this other one that's closer to the enemy spawn base. So I do need to be careful when I do that, because remember, I don't have a huge amount of firepower right now. And this is also my second scout car on the field, so once I have my 2 Panzer Grenadiers and 2 scout cars, any future units I build will all be Panzer Grenadiers unless I lose a scout car. If you start losing units like Panzer Grenadiers and scout cars, you should really just replace them, is what I found is best. But really losing units is not acceptable at this point in the game because you're pretty much guaranteed to lose if you do lose any units. So try your absolute hardest to not lose any units at this point in the game. Now having said that, watch what happens to the scout car. If I remember correctly, I end up losing the scout car. Thanks to these rifle grenades and the fact that it wants to turn around. Yeah, there it goes. It's dead. So that's exactly what you don't want to do. You don't want to lose a scout car by fighting multiple British infantry sections with a single scout car. You will not win that fight. 1-on-1 you will win, 1-on-2 you will not win, no matter what kind of cover they're in. Probably even red cover wouldn't win you that one. You can see my opponent is building a mortar now. I forced my opponent to retreat his grenade infantry section. My other scout car is repaired. I have a Panzer Grenadier squad, my third one I believe, building tier 4. Oh, this is perfect. Do tons of damage to the enemy infantry right there, because they take extra damage when they're building things. Oh yeah, do tons of damage. Get that veterancy. Do offensive veterancy. Offensive is the best unless you cannot handle the low health that your units have, in which case go defensive. I've explained that in the video long ago though, about how to choose with veterancy. I usually go offensive though. Retreat, don't want to lose the squad. Ooh, that was pretty close. So what I did there is I actually did quite a bit of damage to my opponent because he was building his mortar. And the mortar does actually hurt the strategy quite a bit because of the fact that you have to cap points around the mortar, and you will be mortared as you do it. But luckily scout cars don't cost much to repair. In case you didn't know, it actually costs you manpower to repair things. It's like very, very, very small. Like 3 manpower to repair a scout car or something like that. It's very, very small. But it does cost you money. So, regardless, scout cars are good for capping if your opponent builds a mortar, because you cannot kill a scout car with mortar rounds unless you're capping like a high fuel point or high munition point and you're taking tons of hits. I also had my kitty capping points, as you might have seen, but I had to make it run away because my entire opponent's army was going after it pretty much. I was going to capture the munitions point next to my opponent's spawn base, but I decided against it because he has a recon section over here. So I send my scout car and my 2 Panzer Grenadier squads to attack it, and he retreats like a smart man. And now I have my scout car cap the point while my 2 Panzer Grenadier squads repair the scout car from the damage it just took. That is the best way to do it, rather than having the Panzer Grenadiers cap a point. So as you can see, I have already gotten... I built tier 4, I got the upgrade that lets me buy the Panzer IV, and I'm already building the Panzer IV. It did not take me long at all. We are 7, almost 8 minutes in the game only. That is a very short period of time. If you can get yourself enough fuel to do this effectively and not get cut off from the map, then this is a very effective strategy, because the Panzer IV... I know I said I would explain it later in the video, so here's the explanation. The Panzer IV, the reason you want it is because it counters everything that the opponents can send at you, the British can send at you, in tiers 1, 2, and 3, except for 2 units. Number 1, the Firefly, which takes quite a lot to get to. The British normally don't go for those very early. And number 2, the Churchill, the call-in Churchills that you get from the Engineer Doctrine. So here you can see the Panzer IV, and my opponent is running away. He knows what's up. He knows how deadly these things are. So let's go do some damage with this thing. I'm first buying side skirts on it. I do intend to buy the MG upgrade on it because it's quite useful, but I don't have the munitions for it yet because I've been focusing so heavily on fuel. The Panzer IV is here. My opponent does have Piats. Let's just lock down the Panzer IV and watch what happens to these Piats. Piats do not stand a chance. Did you see that? 2 shots, 3 dead men, and then the entire crew is dead. My opponent laughs at it. Like, wow, did that really just happen? Yes, it did. It did just happen. Buildings will not save you when you are facing a Panzer IV. So now what I do is I move my Panzer IV into my opponent's base and lock it down and have it fire at anything that's an opportunity to shoot at. Now I did say that the 2 units that can counter this thing are the Firefly, which the opponent will not have by this point most likely, and the Churchill. Now my opponent could get a Churchill at this point. There's a chance he will get a Churchill, so you should be planning for a Churchill eventually. And the way you plan for that is you get an AT half-track from tier 4 that you just built. The AT half-track is nice and cheap, so you can easily afford it, and you use the AT half-track to track or destroy the engine on the Churchill and make the Churchill useless, and you still destroy the enemy base with your Panzer IV. So this strategy does work very well, and if your opponent builds anything that can counter the Panzer IV, you can counter it with an AT half-track, and then killing all of your opponent's Piat squads and any other squads they decide to make. And you can see my opponent here quit. I was going to say, it's not luck. This is the strategy I always use against the Brits, and it has worked quite well most of the time. So, this was just a good execution of it. Wanted to show it to you guys. And, there we go. My opponent finally dropped. So there you have it. Not very much on my opponent's team. You can see he built tier 2, but he didn't even have a captain yet, and I already had a Panzer IV IST. That goes to show you just how fast you can get this thing, and your opponent will have no counter to it. Not even Piats will counter this thing. So, that is it. Hope you all enjoyed the video and found it helpful. Very good strategy. I highly recommend it. There are some downfalls, like I mentioned, the Firefly and the Churchill, but you can counter both of them with an AT half-track. Just destroy the engine on them, and then keep your Panzer IV destroying your opponent's HQ or their field support truck to keep sappers from repairing the tank that they brought out. Things like that. You know, just keep the tank they bring out away from your Panzer IV. If it's one of those two tanks, you'll be fine. If they bring out a Cromwell or a Stuart or any other tank, your Panzer IV will win against it. Except for the Cromwell, if you're facing in the front armor. You need to face the rear armor of the Cromwell to win. And the way you do that is by destroying the tracks and the engine with your AT half-track that you get right after the Panzer IV. So, that is it for the video. Hope you all enjoyed it and found it helpful, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.